Yes, box office buddies. Here we are. You know the deal. I review a new movie with a different buddy. JB's been here before. Staple on box office buddies. And, if you know me, you know my favorite movie of all time is The Matrix. It is my favorite movie. I think it revolutionized cinema. I think at the time it's a bit dated now, certain things, right? But let's give it a break. It's almost 23 years old.
Yeah, especially the special effects there. But...
Right. But it's almost 23 years old.
Yeah.
But at the time, I think it was a perfect movie. Like, everything about that movie, I love. Fantastic. And then Matrix 2 came along. It kind of ruined the first one a bit, right? And sequels often do that.
And ruin's a strong word. It was definitely... I mean, the first Matrix movie should have been on its own.
Right.
The second one
right.
didn't add anything, and it detracted from it.
Exactly. And I hate when sequels do that. If you're not going to improve, at least don't take a dump on what came before.
Yeah.
And the second one did that, but I still think that 2 and 3 forget... Of course, they take away from what The Matrix is, but as movies, I thought they were good movies.
Okay, yeah.
Not
solid.
Not on the same level, but I still thought they were good movies. And I actually think 3 is underrated, underappreciated. And now, Matrix 4, Matrix Resurrections. And,
it's Resurrections. I thought it was Revelations. Something with an R. And
so, Matrix 4... Matrix Resurrections.
You almost said it. You almost said Revelations. That's good.
It's, I'm just going to go and say it is a heaping pile of wet manure. This thing, I knew I would hate it. But I did not think it would be this bad. Oh my gosh. I'm too angry right now. You go, talk, because...
I think I got it. Okay, I think I got it. I think it is bad. But this is a little bit like your analysis of Star Wars The Last Jedi, where you think that Rian Johnson was trolling the fans and the studios.
Right.
I think Lana Wachowski was doing that here. And she wasn't just trolling the studios and the fans, she was also trolling the politics and what happens when you conventionalize what were previously revolutionary attitudes and ideas. And so I think this film is on purpose bad, and it's a troll. And I think it was really well done in that regard. But I don't think it was a good movie per se. I think that was the point, is what I'm saying.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually think that I'm going to argue that as best as I can, because I don't have a good memory and there's a lot in that movie. It's a 2.5-hour movie.
Yes, and this review is not going to be a short one. I hope you like long reviews because we are going to get into it, I think.
Okay,
and
we'll try. Yeah.
Oof. Okay,
You don't think so? This one I think is much more obvious than Rian Johnson.
Even
in doing that,
even after all the points I made?
They're even explicit at the beginning.
Yes, which is why they're so explicit with it. Basically, look, they not only, like I said, I don't like when sequels take a dump on the first one. They not only take a dump on the first one, they take a dump on the whole trilogy.
Yep.
And they're basically saying, "Oh, this whole thing, what you saw was a video game." It's a bit more complex than that, right? But
it's even funny the way they describe it as that, because I remember talking to a friend, like, how dated does it look? And then I was comparing it to an old video game, like an Xbox Cinematic and stuff like that, you know? So they're very self-aware of their own legacy. Well, I shouldn't say they, because it turns out only Lana Wachowski made this.
Right.
I don't know what happened to the other Wachowski.
Yeah.
Anyway, go on. Sorry.
I feel like they took the whole
it was like
trilogy,
a video game,
and they were like, that all that you watched, all that you suspended your disbelief for, you made part of your life, you loved. Some people even enjoyed the sequels, which, like I said, I did on a certain level. But they're saying all of that meant nothing.
They're not saying that.
and I felt like this was trying to get a new Matrix audience for teenagers, and it was rotten. The action was brutal.
See, everything that you're saying is exactly what Lana Wachowski was hearing from those studio execs when she was sitting in that room, and she's like, all right, on paper, I'm going to give you that. That's exactly what I think this movie was, because this is like a PG, not even PG-13. This is a PG Matrix, right? There's like nothing in this that's particularly groundbreaking or violent or interesting. Everything is like the Marvel movies. They cut a lot of the tension with humor and that kind of stuff. It's all meant to deflate and to be like wink, wink at the audience kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right.
The amount of fan service and.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen a movie that flashes back to their original movie so many times and like, oh, remember this scene? Remember this guy? That was
That's
awful. It was
point.
so bad.
I think that's the point.
Oh man.
They're critiquing it, okay? And they're critiquing. They're critiquing reboot culture as a culture, but they're also critiquing reboot business model. So they're bringing the two together here and they're critiquing it. And I think that they're also, and I don't mean to overly psychologize the author here or anything like that, but I do think that they're also discussing that in terms of like heteronormativity versus non-normativity and these kinds of things. They're trying to enter that all into dialogue. And I think it's very clever. I'm going to try and think of a way to get this across where I can actually communicate that.
Clever, really, because I was gonna say, like, I'm watching this thing, right, and the whole time I'm worried. I'm like, this movie's gonna be so political, it's gonna be so heavy-handed, and yes. I'm watching the movie and I'm like, one thing I can give it credit for is it's not that. And then at the end, of course, they go for it, and they go for it hard, and it's...
Yeah, but think about how bad that was. Do you honestly think that a serious writer, someone who wrote... Well, Cloud Atlas wasn't written by them, but they made it. And somebody who made The Matrix.
V for Vendetta.
V for Vendetta. Do you really think they would end the movie, and we're going into spoiler territory here, okay, with the man and the woman together talking about how they're going to repaint the world with rainbows all over the sky? What do you think? Do you honestly think that was a serious statement? Do you think that Lana Wachowski is that unsubtle and incapable of writing a good line or something?
I don't know if this is going to make the cut, but I think what they were actually saying with that was who's the one saying, "Oh, you think you're going to paint the rainbow with paint the sky with rainbow?" Who says that?
Trinity.
No. Who says, "Oh, you think you're going to paint the sky with rainbows?" Who first brings that up?
Neil Patrick Harris?
The villain.
That's right.
So the villain is the one who's like, "Oh, that this kind of world is stupid and can't exist," and the heroes are like, "Oh no, we can make that exist."
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think
and this whole movie is structured like an extremely traditional hero's journey / romance novel. This is extremely important. Okay, this is as low level storytelling as it gets. I don't even mind Lola. You know how I like Avatar. This is the point. This is the point, okay? So, okay. Here we go. Hopefully I can get it. This film, okay, it's essentially an ode to, in some sense, and renders service to the ultimate bond that makes all storytelling worth telling, which is the heteronormative relationship of man and woman. If you don't have man and woman, right, you don't have a species. So everything in this story exists in service to man, Neo, and woman, Trinity, and the mystery that of love that exists between them.
Uh-huh.
Okay? That's actually how this new Matrix even functions and works. It's on the basis of that relationship.
Right.
Okay? So this film is structured like a romance novel to in some sense imitate what it is that Neil Patrick Harris, the new architect, is doing with The Matrix. But it's also, in another sense, I think what it's doing is it's putting into the proper position the role of a heteronormative relationship as being campy and cheesy and worthy of critique and in some sense laughing at, while at the same time saying that if you don't have this at the center, you can't have anything resembling a Matrix or anything other than a Matrix.
You're giving him way too much credit.
I don't think so. I think they're clever enough to, and I think she's clever enough to come up with this idea. And I think that whether or not she intended that, she wound up communicating that.
I disagree. And you know why I disagree? Because I made a review, or a video on Box Office Buddies. You can check it out. My Matrix 4 rant. As soon as I found out they were making a Matrix 4, I got so angry. I made a video and I talked about, I hate that they're doing this. I know it's just going to be political garbage. And that's what we're all...
It's so surprising how...
That's what I was expecting, and that's what they did.
They did. But see, this is a weird thing, okay? Like, this is a weird movie. It's weirdly not trying to divide people.
Well, of course not.
This movie is trying to actually... So what happened, like a lot of the tensions that we're experiencing today politically when it comes to gender relations, okay? I think it's, what they're arguing in this film is that it's a manufactured conflict that's a part of the new Matrix. Now this film is in some sense bringing back the cheesy tropes, okay? So instead of what the Matrix originally did, which was break the boundaries, this film is reincorporating all the boundaries. So think about it this way. I think in many ways what this film is doing is it's actually coming to terms with the idea that its revolutionary stance and attitudes have now been incorporated into the Matrix, into the system, and the pre-existing powers that have existed have now adapted and are now re-emerging as the dominant forces. All of these things.
Exactly. It seems so cheap to me.
That's the point. Everything is cheap in this movie.
Yes.
Everything is cheesy and everything is cheap.
I'll get into that in a second, but yeah.
It's on purpose. It's really on purpose.
I don't think it's on purpose, and I'll even get to a point as to why. So you got Keanu Reeves who's back. How did he read the script and be like, I want to make this movie? I don't know. I don't understand it. Keanu.
Maybe he was forced on the contract?
Exactly. Someone has some sort of dirt on him, but... Yeah. And they get Carrie-Anne Moss back, and a couple other actors from the original trilogy who are back in this. But Hugo Weaving, who plays Agent Smith, he's not in this.
Like Keanu Reeves, that guy has such charisma. It's such a shame that he's not in this movie.
So
they all do actually.
So this is Morpheus. Yeah. Don't get me started on Lawrence Fishburne as Morpheus. He's one of the cornerstones of what sold me on The Matrix. Like what makes me say The Matrix is the best movie I've ever seen. Part of it is Lawrence Fishburne.
Yep.
As Morpheus.
He's amazing.
They don't have him. They don't have Hugo Weaving as Agent Smith. And when I say cheap, that's kind of what I'm getting at too. Is like they did not bring back everyone that they could have brought back. Like Hugo Weaving, he was interested in doing the project, but there was scheduling conflicts, and they couldn't even wait a few months to shoot to have him, one of the main most important characters in the Matrix, come back. It's cheap, and not, when I say cheap, I don't mean intentionally. It's like they just kind of were like, okay.
It's like the studio executive said, well, what do you mean, Lawrence Fishburne? We don't need Lawrence Fishburne. All we need is The Matrix.
Exactly.
And then Lana Wachowski was there, and she was like, fine, you're gonna get The Matrix.
I don't know.
That's what I think.
You're giving Lana way too much credit, and I'm not even talking about cast, crew. Okay, so I was watching this movie.
It's not good.
And right,
the score, the cinematography, the action, the everything.
They have nothing. Like I'm watching this movie, and in my head I'm thinking like, okay, not only do I not like the story, do I not like what's going on, but I was like, visually it has a different feel to it.
Yep.
Very different feel visually even. And then you look into it, Bill Pope is the cinematographer for the first three.
I have no idea who that is.
Bill Pope is not the cinematographer in this one. I'm watching the fights. I'm like, these fights are boring. Mm-hmm. I look into it. His name is Yu Wing Peng or something like that. The choreographer of the other three Matrix movies is not the choreographer on this one. So even when it comes to like technical stuff, they don't have the same team to make it as impressive, as impactful. Yep. And I think that is one of the major issues. You can't say that's
like
deliberate.
A B-movie romance movie.
I was watching it at one point.
I was like, B-movie romance movie.
I was like, this is a TV movie. Yes, that's what I felt. If I say Matrix, The Matrix, what's the first scene that comes to mind?
Well, it's difficult to say. There's so much in that movie.
Right.
It's iconic.
Right.
You can say Trinity at the beginning, which they imitate in this. You can say the bullet time moment.
Yes.
You could say the helicopter moment against
Exactly.
the building. You
So
could
that
say,
whole ending, right? The kung fu and the shootout scenes, like the lobby shootout and then the
lobby
rooftop
shootout.
shoot.
There's also in the subway. There's
Yeah,
also at the
exactly,
end.
the
No,
kung-
like,
the
there's
kung
so much
fu. Exactly.
iconography in it. Yeah.
Matrix 2. Matrix Reloaded. What's the most memorable scene in that movie?
I only remember certain shots.
Okay.
Oh, Monica Bellucci. That's what made me fall in love with Monica Bellucci. She's the most gorgeous woman that I think I've ever laid my eyes on in my life.
If you're, if you're watching, if you're watching,
and if you're single, because I'm not interested in, if you're not.
He's not a home wrecker, but if
Exactly.
if you're single,
Yeah,
he's available.
Yeah, she was iconic in that film, that's for sure. There was also
When I think Matrix 2, I think the car chase.
I don't think the car chase, but that's a much better scene than I was thinking of, which was Neo versus all the Smiths, and I remember that for a bad reason.
Yeah, exactly.
It looks like a video game.
Yeah,
that's usually what I think of when I think of it aged badly.
Yeah. No, not even aged. I remember watching it when it came out and being like,
I think I was too blown away. I was too young. I loved it.
But no, for me, Matrix 2, when I think Matrix 2, I think that car chase. Yeah. And I think even like a few action scenes, like stuff going on. Matrix 3, what do you think of?
Oh, I liked the shots in the Machine City.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The War in Zion I find is wicked.
No, I don't even like the War in Zion.
Okay.
I liked some of the fight scenes when it was more grounded between Neo and Smith.
Yep, exactly.
The grounded stuff, not the CGI stuff,
right.
you know?
Yeah.
That's all I really remember from Revolutions.
Right. So what I'm saying is you remember certain things. I remember certain things.
Yeah.
And some of them very positively. There was not a single, not even visually, a single moment in this where I was like, oh, that was cool.
Nope. The only thing that I liked, what I thought was cool, and I'm actually being serious.
Yeah, okay.
What I thought was cool
Uh-huh.
was placing at the center the love story between Neo and Trinity.
But yes.
Right? It strips away almost everything and just leaves that. You know, and I find that it's such an interesting choice to make, and that's why I said before too. I don't want to overly psychologize the director here, but I'm so curious to know what was going on.
I find it the exact opposite of interesting. I think everything about this movie was lame, boring. Even the visuals, technically, all of it was bad.
I think you're not giving it enough credit, and you're not giving Lana Wachowski enough credit here.
I think you're giving it too much credit. Way too much.
But you have to also remember that I'm not saying that this is a good movie as far as like internally how it's made. I think that in terms of what it's doing in a meta sense, I guess you could say, if I'm even using that word properly, I think that what she was trying to do with what she had, that was clever.
Occam's razor. What's more likely? That someone who hasn't made a good movie since Cloud Atlas in 2010 just made another garbage movie, or that somehow this genius was like, haha, I'm gonna get the studios, and like I just, we'll see what the fans think, cause ultimately, no matter what happens, if everyone hates your movie and it makes no money, then you failed.
Maybe, but I'm more inclined, like I want to own the first Matrix, and I think I do. I
own it in 3. I own it on VHS, DVD, and Blu-ray.
VHS, that's the one that does it. I love that it's VHS. But you probably have a couple of downloaded copies as well, just for, you know. But I want to own the first one. I don't want to own 2 or 3. And I want to own this one. I want to own this one.
What?
Yeah.
You like this more than 2 and 3?
In a weird way.
Oh my gosh.
Because it's either accidentally or purposefully more interesting.
Guys, help me out in the comments, please. Please help me out in the comments. Like,
I really like, even if it's a complete fluke. Like The Room is interesting kind of thing. Although this isn't that level, obviously, right?
Right.
But you know how that's interesting, despite the fact that internally it's not good.
The Room is one of the most entertaining movies you can watch.
Yes, but for all the wrong reasons, right?
Yes.
So even
but
if
this isn't entertaining
but to
either.
me, it's entertaining, and it might be what I'm saying is that it might be for the wrong reasons.
Because the first one, part of what makes the first one so brilliant and beautiful is the story.
Oh, yeah.
And what happens at the end, right? And you just have this like, whoa! And then in this, you're like, Well, no, and then 2 and 3 take
it's
away
so
from
much
that.
more-
And this is like...
See, the thing with the original Matrix 2, it's so much more mature, while at the same time appealing to youth and
Sure.
idealism.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas this film is so childish. It's so weird, this film. It's so much the opposite of what the Matrix was in so many ways.
Yes, and like I said, not just like the story, but visually.
Oh yeah. It's completely uninspired. I think it's so uninspired.
You can't say that if you believe that there's a certain message that was very clever.
No, because but it's very clever by accident, possibly.
Okay.
I admit
Okay.
that. But it's so uninspired that I think it's partly on purpose.
Okay.
I don't see how somebody with that mind, who can produce that kind of visually stunning world and these kinds of stories and these kinds of screenplays, I don't see how someone like that can do something like this.
I can see it because, like I said, the Wachowskis, whether Lana or them together, have not done a single good thing since Cloud Atlas, and a lot of people don't even like that.
I liked Cloud Atlas a lot.
Yeah.
I liked V for Vendetta. They made the screenplay of that one, I think.
V for Vendetta is fantastic.
Yeah.
Matrix, the best movie ever made. I even
Never
like
saw-
Speed Racer. I like Cloud
I
Atlas.
didn't enjoy that. I never saw that Jupiter movie.
I was gonna say. Then what happens after Cloud Atlas? Jupiter Ascending and Sense8.
Sense8. Wasn't that a short
TV show.
series? Yeah.
A TV show. I cannot give the Wachowskis credit. And like I said, I knew going in that I wouldn't like this. I was hoping I'd be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
But no, it's exactly what I was expecting. Even worse in a lot of ways worse. I at least thought I would get the visuals and like some big action scenes that I'm like, oh, that was cool at least. But I got
film
nothing.
had none of that.
I got nothing.
It had none of that. It was really, like I said, uninspired is such a good word, I think, to use to describe it.
I live in a place that just closed down movie theaters. I was so furious. So furious that like 2 days before the new Matrix comes out, I can't watch this movie in theaters.
See,
What a blessing in disguise. Oh my goodness,
It's
I'm
so
so happy I
weird.
did not pay money to see this.
It's so weird how epic, large scale, and revolutionary the original Matrix is compared to this film. It's so different. It's such a contrast. This could have been released on TV.
I told you, it felt like a TV
Yeah.
movie a lot of the time.
This could have been released
With all
on
the
TV.
flashbacks, like, oh, terrible. Terrible. It's just, I can't say anything
the
good.
fan fiction insertion characters as well, like Morpheus.
Not only
yeah.
fan fiction, fan service.
Yeah, fan service and
The
fan
amount of like, haha, remember this? I was like, oh boy, like,
fiction. Yeah, I think
Like-
it's on purpose.
good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you. Bless your heart.
Are we gonna Matrix to Marvel this one?
On a scale of Marvel to Matrix, this is Marvel. This is like,
It's straight up Marvel.
this.
I'm gonna give this Marvel too. I mean, I don't have anything to compare it to, except like I guess I kind of intimated towards Last Jedi territory.
Right.
So maybe a little bit like that in terms of the kind of ironic, subversive, culturally critical,
Yeah.
and
If we're
filmmaking
talking
critical.
talking sequels, this is Jurassic Park 3.
I've
this
never
is
seen Jurassic Park 3. I don't know.
okay.
But it's that domain, like
Exactly.
the remaking of Star Wars, the remaking of Jurassic Park, the remaking of all this stuff,
Exactly.
the remaking of
It's-
Ben-Hur, which was really
It's
something.
Ghostbusters. the,
Ghostbusters. There we go.
the all-female Ghostbusters. That's what this is. It's bad. It's
Yeah, it's bad.
um.
You have to go into this film expecting it to be bad, and I think if you do, you might get what the director was intending. I think.
If the director
I
was
think.
intending anything,
I think that. I think.
we have different ideas on what the director was intending. But okay, look. Why don't you plug your work?
Yeah. So I've been doing a lot of reading of Milton lately, and a friend of mine came up with the idea of doing a kids' book transcription of Paradise Lost for kids, and so I recently.
Classic work of literature.
Yep, it's a classic work of literature. It's part of the Western canon. A lot of the themes actually even found in The Matrix to do with liberty and the struggle of what to do in a society where that liberty is not necessarily respected are found in that book. It's actually a lot of the root of many of the ideas about freedom and liberty that we have in our society come from this work of John Milton and of Paradise Lost and of his coming to terms with the politics of his day and age. A paraphrase of Paradise Lost for youngsters. The Tragedy of Lucifer, Part 1.
Yeah.
Right?
And I do have to say, like, you say it's for youngsters, you say for kids, but But honestly, I read this and like I was entertained.
Yeah, we did what we could, and I think it came out very good. So for those of you who are interested, you can get it on Amazon.ca, Amazon.com. I think there's also some book retailers, Barnes and Noble, Book Depository. Indigo at some point is going to have it. I don't know why they don't yet, but they will eventually. And of course, there's going to be an ebook coming out soon, and the ebook is going to be the most affordable version for everyone. So
Yeah, but I mean, even
paperback and hardcover if you order it online.
yeah, an actual copy is really cool to read. Those of you who want to like actually read a bedtime story to kids and stuff, it's really cool to like. It's a great book, and I recommend, even if you don't have kids, even if like this is a really just a cool story. If you're interested in angels, demons, gods, Satan, origin stories, all this stuff, it's like it has all that, and it's really interesting. This isn't a Bible story.
No.
But it's based on biblical stuff, and it's super interesting, just like mythology. If you're into mythology, great thing to check out. Yeah, thanks for watching this review. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope it was helpful, and might even start up a conversation. Like I said, leave some comments. This is a very interesting theory you've come up with. I disagree completely.
Yeah, I got that feeling.
Let us know what you think, and make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit subscribe, hit the bell, and we'll be seeing you soon. I don't know how soon, because I'm not. You talked about uninspired before. I'm not inspired to review movies anymore. They all suck. But whatever. I'll be back.
Let's find some indie movies for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah?
Something. Give me something that's worth watching. But I'll be back, and hopefully you'll be there too. Take care.